So Jess and I are the faculty members at the UofL music therapy program, and a large component of the work that we do with our students takes place in the classroom. They have an opportunity to obviously learn and apply some of their skill sets, but it's also great for us to give that immediate feedback for them, and to help them just accelerate their growth in their process. Jess, will you go to the next slide? Thank you. Some of the places that we visit here in the community, because the music therapy program has been at the University of Louisville for about 21 years, we're really fortunate that over that time we have established a wide variety of organizations to collaborate with for our students to be a part of. And the populations with whom we engage are all over the spectrum. We go to ULH Hospital, to both hospitals in the community. We go to Down Syndrome Louisville. We go to Hospice. We've worked with students in the PACT program and some of the students at YPAS and the JCPS system. We also have, and probably what makes us really unique is our music therapy clinic, which is right here in the School of Music, that sees patients not only in this building, but also goes out into the community to provide music therapy services also. And Jess is going to talk more about that later, so I'll stop there. And of course, we do visit a multitude of assisted living facilities throughout the community. Let's go to the next one.
One of the things I'm really proud of our department is making the shift as rapidly as possible into the virtual world starting a year ago, and doing whatever we needed to continue having these students be able to have these high level engagements in the community, even if it's from sitting in front of a computer. So this is a picture of one of the latest virtual contents that we created for the early learning campus. We have several courses in our program that interact with the preschool over at the early learning campus. And this is one of our junior level courses where they are really focusing on learning behavior modification techniques and developmental milestones of about 3 to 5-year-olds. So integrating that into treatment planning and what does that look like when it's executed. So last March, when I had to tell them that we couldn't go to the preschool, we wanted, and the whole preschool shut down as well, of course. So they were interested in what was possible and how could we continue to do something. So we designed asynchronous video content where the students picked a developmental milestone and geared it towards a specific age group and created content for the teachers to share with their students. One of the beautiful things that came out of this was that the students demonstrated the learning of the knowledge and the skills to a level I had never even expected them to do at that point. And one of the big differences to me was that they didn't have the preschoolers, you know, when you're in there with the little kids and then they're so darn cute and you just want to make them smile and see what you can do with them, and you kind of wait for them to respond to know what you're going to do. But in this platform, they had to do all of the responding. They had to facilitate it. They had to respond to themselves. They had to create space for responses. So they drove those interventions so well that we decided to continue carrying that on this year. And now we've spent some time really building our digital literacy skills and being able to do things like these live animations. There's a couple other areas that I'm really proud of the students and our investment in that continuum of care, even into the digital offerings, with telehealth being robust through our clinic practice. And these are just a few examples of, we worked with the campus hospital and were able to work with moms who were on bed rest until they had their infants. That is the top picture there of working with a mom through some trauma that she wanted to process and doing songwriting where she could collaborate right on the screen with us. And even though we might have that physical barrier, there are different opportunities available from the digital perspective. And then there's some older adults that we were also able to have our community champions help us be able to continue to connect in that way and experiment with what is actually possible. And these two programs specifically were I really enjoyed because it highlighted the value of those community relationships when things change, and that they were already in place, and the time to foster those allowed us to be able to explore this new world so easily.
Jess, can I jump in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm sure everyone has had a similar experience, but I know for myself, even though music therapy, kind of referring back to what you were saying earlier, Amy, we didn't benefit from the pandemic, but we certainly highlighted the opportunities that were presented to us because of a less than desirable situation. So for music therapy and for how we prepare our students, really jumping on the telehealth bandwagon was a major shift. Well, for everyone, because we're all doing some sort of teleteaching or telehealth in this case. And I feel like our students really gravitated to that and did really well. And it's a skill that will benefit them for the rest of their professional lives. But always trying to stay positive and mindful of why this was a really valuable experience was a never-ending topic for many of our students. But I'm grateful that they have this new skill set that was not necessarily planned in the curriculum. But starting last year, it certainly became a huge part of it. Jess, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that it's really awesome for our students currently because they are going to be the pioneers in the field of music therapy for what telehealth is going to evolve to be. And it eliminates the geographical barriers of private practice and of access to healthcare. So I personally am really excited for them and take that responsibility as to what can we connect them with. And it's allowed me to reach across the community as well as our university and what kinds of resources we can use together. So for example, the Delphi Center helped create a website specific to one of our courses that led us to copyright-free images that they can use in their content development. The 4 students that are working with older adults this semester are designing a resource for music therapy and telehealth in older adult recommendations. So we have this really cool interactive PDF that hopefully we'll be able to disseminate at the end of the semester. So not only across our Louisville community here, but the resources from the university and then our greater profession as a whole. Hopefully we'll be able to share some of that with them. And all of that is possible because of the relationship building that wasn't largely in place before the pandemic, and then helping connect the needs of the community, like you all were mentioning with the older adult facilities, and how are we going to reach these folks and our champions that help make that possible.
Yeah, I think the longstanding relationships that we've had with our community partners were incredibly beneficial for us because they already understood and knew the value of what we did and were ready to accommodate and be creative in solving the new challenges that we had before us. So there were a lot of opportunities there for us to still be successful, and our partners were really enthusiastic about helping us to remain that way. Not all of our community partners were able to still offer services. For example, our practicums that we have at hospice and also at the Kentucky State Reformatory were just simply not available. So hoping to see those turn around, but there were a couple instances where it was just not going to be a possibility.
Mm-hmm. I think as far as challenges go, for me, it's always that balancing of there is a lot more time that is required to communicate with community partners and to make sure that everyone's at the table and to make sure that everyone's heard and listened to. and that the students have the resources they need to be successful in these different arenas that maybe they've never feel like they've experienced before. So that's been a fun adventure, just to conceptualize what do they need to be successful in these ways, and how can we connect them to the resources that will help them do that, and what will their experience be like.
So I love working with students in the community. For me, it's just terribly exciting to actually see them get to put into practice what we've talked about in the classroom, and to get real responses from their clients. It just really kind of rocks their world. And my first semester of teaching, I was reminded very quickly after I had taken a student to do some music leading in an assisted living facility. So I'm 43, and my student was probably 20, and my grandparents, passed probably 20 years ago. So that's an experience that I have processed and is only meaningful and beautiful to me now as I have processed my grief. But that's not the same for my students. So it was a real kind of shock to my system to be reminded that, when our students are young, they're in a very different place in their life, and working with different populations means something very different to them, just because of where they are in their growth. So I've taken that was a really powerful experience for me. And so I'm always very mindful of my students, and not only their age, but other potential characteristics of their life that I might know about, and how certain populations may impact their learning experience, and being mindful and hoping to facilitate just really meaningful learning opportunities for them in that way. Jess, do you want to add anything to that?
The students, they were disheartened by not being able to go to their practicums as usual. And I think it's taken a couple of semesters for them to see what the possibilities can be, and to not be afraid to interact with them. And I'm so happy that we have the support through the university to help continue to offer those things to them, and people are invested in the time to do that. We had a woman at a facility recently who was hard of hearing, and we were doing virtual music therapy with her. And the students looked at us with wide eyes, and the woman played piano. We would type the names of songs as choices for her, and she would pick one and just start playing and singing, and we had to catch up to her. And if we didn't, she would stop. So we had this shared music making experience, asynchronously, not at the same time were we making music, but we were all making music together. And the staff said that they had not seen her participate in life in that way prior to that experience. So I think that was really valuable deeply for me, but for the students to be able to see that things are possible, even though you might not think they could be. So I think just considering the timeline of what it takes to develop community relationships is important. And for our program, we start them pretty early in being able to engage with those.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? We would answer them.
I know we didn't have tons of time to talk about all the different things, but we also have a Parkinson's thing that's starting. We have podcasts with pros from around the country that are going, and we have our clinic that is doing van events with our mobile outreach projects.
So how is the work with the van going, given with COVID and everything? Is the van's getting around to folks, and I guess now that it's a little warmer, maybe some things can happen outside and the like, right?
That's correct. Yes, the van is filling more roles than I ever could have possibly imagined it could do. And we have several students that are going to take leadership positions in orchestrating those now coming up, especially the ones that have an odd course flight plan that have to stay for like a different kind of music course that they somehow are out of sequence. So those students are going to be able to take lead of community events with the van coming up here when the weather's nicer.